Look who's brought a basket of good... Hey, Hetty. What's-his-face?
Your young man has gone for a walk, dear.
He's not my young man, Hetty.
You really shouldn't tell lies, dear. You're not very good at it.
Hetty, I'm not lying.
Oh, there it is again.
What?
You have a tell, dear. There's a reason your grandmother and I never taught you how to play cards. The entire town would have had all of your money.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There it is again. That little line between your brows when you're not convinced of the truth of what you're saying. You really should learn to just not speak if you can't tell the truth, dear.
I don't have a tell.
What are you doing, dear?
Nothing.
The mirror is over in the other drawer.
I wasn't... Fine. You could have told me sooner.
Where would be the fun in that? Besides, your grandmother didn't want you to know. She found it quite useful.
Oh my God. I used to think she was a mind reader.
No, dear. All she had to read was your face. Any fib you told was written all over it.
Tell me something. Are all innocent-seeming old women actually evil on the inside, or is it just you two?
Oh, it's all of us, dear.
Good to know.
So I take it you've taken a shine to this young man, then?
No.
Dreamy.
All right. Maybe a little. He's kind of funny and cute and I don't know. He seems to think it's funny when I threaten him, so I mean, that's frustrating, but it's also forced me to actually talk to him if I want him to stop doing things that are annoying.
Dreamy, you're getting too old for that nonsense. Ugh. We are far past the point of you saying boys are icky.
Okay. Hetty, you know it's not that. He's a stranger. We don't know him.
I've told you, Dreamy, the road wouldn't have allowed him on it if he had ill intentions. That young man is no threat to you or any of us.
The road protects us against wolves, Hetty.
Does it, dear? I seem to recall a wolf that made it on the road just fine when you needed him.
Hetty? Don't.
You know he was a wolf.
I know. And okay, all right, fine. If it doesn't protect us against wolves, and it protects us against people who have ill intentions, it was broken that day anyway, because he tried to attack my grandmother.
Did he, dear?
What are you saying?
I loved your grandmother with my whole heart, and I always will. But she was wrong that day, Dreamy. She let her prejudices get in the way of her common sense. Before she died, she knew it as well.
What on earth are you talking about?
That wolf did nothing more than raise his voice to her. He threw a basket across the room, and he did it out of concern for you, because he cared about you, dear.
Hetty, don't.
But your grandmother was so full of prejudice against the wolves that she acted on that. Where from another man she would have seen justified reproach, from him she saw a threat, all because he was a wolf.
No. No, he turned after he was shot. She didn't know he was a wolf.
Of course she did, dear. It's in the eyes. He had those amber eyes.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Oh, it's not always a perfect predictor. Some humans have amber eyes as well, but it's far more rare. And around these parts, I dare say you'll never see someone with amber eyes unless they are a wolf.
Hetty, my father had amber eyes.
Yes, dear. And don't think your grandmother wasn't furious about it.
You're telling me that No, my father wasn't a wolf. I'm not a wolf.
No, dear, you're not. But we did wonder throughout your mother's pregnancy what would happen.
Oh my God. This is insane.
Yes, dear. I imagine you would think so, but it's true nonetheless.
So, before I was born, you didn't know if I was going to be human?
Well, that's not precisely what I'm saying, dear.
What then?
Well, being part werewolf, you could have been born with their tendencies, but you also could have just been born as a werecougar.
Oh, what?
That was less likely to happen, what with your mother being only 1/4 werecougar and your father being fully half werewolf, but it was always a possibility, dear. Have some tea, dear. Honestly, someone should have mentioned this to you sooner, but I'm surprised you never noticed.
Yeah. I think I would have noticed if my family started turning into animals every full moon.
Oh, no, dear, it's not like that.
How is it then?
Well, in truth, I'm sure it does happen to some of your grandparents and great-grandparents. But the more people intermarry, the more their children have control over their transformations. Though it was always very tetchy in your household when the moon was full. And you must have noticed that your grandmother had a tendency to hiss at people when she was angry.
I just thought that was her thing.
It was her thing, dear. It was her cat thing.
Oh my God. Is that why she always had yarn but was never knitting?
Oh, well, yes. It's also how I ended up taking up knitting. She would sit by my side for hours and we would just talk as I knit and she chased the tail of the yarn around.
This is a lot to take in.
I imagine it is.
But does it really change anything?
I don't imagine it does, no.
But why didn't they ever tell me?
You were a child, dear. Children shouldn't be asked to carry the burden of secrets for their adults. And it did have to be a secret. You know what this town is like about the wolves. There was no reason anyone had to know. And when you were born with those lovely hazel, green, and gold eyes of yours, we knew that you wouldn't have to know either.
Oh, Hetty. Did I ever even know any of them?
Of course you did, dear. You knew your father, and his silly jokes, and his wonderful hunting skills. You knew how much he loved you and how tall you were sitting on his shoulders. You knew how devoted he was to your mother and how gruff he was to everyone else. A bit like you. And you knew your grandmother. You knew what an awful cook she was and what a wonderful painter. You knew how she loved her books and how she loved to read them to you. And you knew how good her plump arms felt around your shoulder when she would hold the book in front of you and show you what words she was saying as she read. You knew everything about them that mattered, dear.
Not the issues they dealt with.
No, dear. No, you didn't. Because parents don't burden their children with those things. If we're fortunate enough to have them in our lives when we're older, we get to learn some of the things that they went through that we never knew about. And we get to appreciate some of the sacrifices they made for us, so that we can have a peaceful mind when we're children and a happy childhood. Whether that be your father keeping quiet about how personally he took the prejudices against wolves, or whether that be your grandmother who managed to see past her prejudices and love your father because he gave us all you.
Oh, Hetty. Thank you. I love you.
I know, dear. Now dry your eyes. Your young man should be back from his walk any minute now. Unless you're about to tell me that he's not your young man again.
Well, I mean, we'll see.
Yes, I thought as much.
Oh. Hetty.
Yes, dear.
He has amber eyes.
Yes, dear.
As always, thank you for your listens and your likes and your subscriptions and your comments and your shares. And a quick shout out to my ever-growing list of patrons. Thank you very much to A Red Bow and Jacketeer and Adrian Hasslinger and Jake C. and DM Bellamy, Tom Berry Shuffle, Christian Calliopa'a, Jack H. and Marius Darkwolf. Thank you all so much, and please be as good to yourselves as you are to me, because you have been such a blessing to me. Thank you, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.